Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So our brother Aftab here, what he didn't mention is when I first became Muslim, he was my youth group teacher. So I didn't know anything about Islam, literally zero. And I came to the masjid for the first time. Actually, I walked in, I think, in the masjid with my shoes on. I literally know nothing what was going on, right? And at that time, I think it was Tampa Masjid at that time. Remember, this story is back in 2006. I was looking for the truth. I didn't know where to find it. And I heard there's a religion called Islam. This was the only masjid in all of the valley. And you can drive by it like 2 or 3 times, you wouldn't catch it. It was basically a house. It's basically what it is right now, Tampa Masjid. It looks like a house has been converted to a masjid, basically, right? So I walked in. I didn't know what Muslims do. I didn't know what time you guys meet and what's going on. I know the Christians meet on Sundays, Jewish people on Saturdays, but Muslims, I don't know. So I just walked in at Maghrib time, like right about now, and I walked in, I'm looking around, and there was this 5 guys sitting in a circle, and I walked in, I think with my shoes and everything. I'm like, hey guys, does anyone know anything about Islam? And they turned around, and these are the people who go do dawah. Like we usually go to him, he's coming to us, and they ran towards me, and I felt overwhelmed. I actually took a couple steps back because I felt surrounded, and I just want to know what Islam is. The first guy, of all the things he can talk about, he starts talking about jinns. And I'm like, what's a jinn? And he's like talking this and this and that. I'm like, what is this? I'm so scared. And then the next one is talking about, I thought they were ghosts and stuff. And the next one's talking about shaitan. And I'm like, shaitan? Who's shaitan? And I got scared. I got in my car and just left. But it just shows you like sometimes how we interact with people. But alhamdulillah, in short amount of time, me and my friend, were searching for the truth. We found Islam. We eventually came back to the masjid. So, okay, where do we go learn? And so there's a youth group, and that's where I met Brother Aftab, and that's the rest is history. So, alhamdulillah. So, anyways, this is like home for me. That's why I said when you said, well, who is this? Introduction, Ali. That's it. I grew up in the valley. I'm still living in the valley, and I've worked on, alhamdulillah, many, many different projects. Started off with being the first Muslim YouTuber. There was nobody making YouTube videos back in 2006. Shortly at that time, Hassan Minaj started doing videos. He actually lived in the valley too. We used to like call me up, hey, let's go to Jummah. All these random stuff, and nobody knew who he was. And then all these different people I've watched go into different fields and different things. And then many of the brothers who converted Islam at the same time as me, now they're involved in many different communities to today. So, my latest project is about helping people get married. Ever since I started that, alhamdulillah, it has really, really been fulfilling. I did about 16 years of stand-up comedy. I did two children's shows, 2 films, all these different projects, but none of those compare as much as helping people find the other half. In fact, I'm thinking right now, I don't have one single Muslim brother, like a close friend, like close to my age, that's single. Most of them got married through Deen or used my method to get married. Even my first success story is still married till today. I actually was texting him yesterday. So I want to help you guys find your other half. You don't have to use my website. You can go through your friends. I prefer you go through your family. That's the number one thing, because no one loves you more than your family. Then second, probably your friends know you probably pretty well too. Then if everything doesn't work out, then whatever method, inshallah, maybe HOD may work for you. I still think better than websites, including mine, any website, is to meet people in person in a structured, organized, halal environment. Nothing replaces that. Unfortunately, they've put you in a swiping culture that you're just going to go through people like this, and that's not how people get married, unfortunately. So, I'm going to give you guys the tools you guys are going to hopefully try to use and utilize, and if any time during the whole process, please feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me, and I will, inshallah, try to go through it's a lot, and try and do it in a short amount of time, but I'm going to do the best I can, inshallah. All right. How do you guys learn about somebody? All right. So when you guys meet somebody, or you see someone at an event, or you meet someone through your friends and family, or you meet someone through the MSA, you just see them and they look like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. And by the way, I don't use people's real pictures. All these are AI. None of these people are actually real. They don't even exist. So, this is getting scary. Yeah, it is scary. So, All these people don't even exist, but just like, and he's literally running AI on his badge over here. But all these people, what's interesting is like when you meet someone like this, how do you get to quote unquote know them? Like how you can decide if this person I should marry or this person I should marry or this person I'm going to marry? How do you decide any of these things? And the reality is that we can't just look at somebody. And if anyone looks at you and they decide, oh, this is a good person for marriage, then whatever they're choosing based on the surface only. And there's much more to you than what's on the surface. So let's talk about some things that are important when it comes to finding your other half. Personality, tolerance, priorities, deal breakers, interests. I'm going to go through all of these with you guys, inshallah. Love languages, friendship qualities. I just put friend qualities just to make it short. Shopping priorities, commonalities, and Q&A. Q&A is one of the kind of things you guys start doing when you meet somebody. You start asking questions. They start asking questions. You go through this whole process of talking to each other. And, okay, he comes back. Okay, so as far as the personality here, let's talk about how you figure out someone's personality. Why is personality important? As some of you has anyone taken Myers and Briggs test before? Okay, has anyone taken any type of personality test before? Okay, so personality-wise, let's talk about, for example, Abu Bakr and Omar. Two different personalities, yet both of those were among the 10 people that were told that they're going to be going to Jannah, that they have a place in Jannah for them while they were still alive. But their personalities wasn't what made that happen. It is the way they carried themselves, their character. You do not have a choice of what personality you're born with. Your parents who raise you, you and your sibling, if you have a sibling, will notice that you and your sibling oftentimes have opposite personalities, but you grew up in the same household. Same mother, same father, same rules. Why is their personality so different? Because your parents didn't choose you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen that personality. But there is going to be a personality. Then comes tolerance. What is tolerance? Which personality can you tolerate? Some people are attracted to the same type of people they cannot tolerate. And that oftentimes, unfortunately, leads to divorce. Priorities. We all have our priorities and what's most important to you, what's least important. And you could have two best friends, and we're going to go through this right now, inshallah, that will have their list of priorities, and their list will be very, very different from each other. So let's actually start breaking this down. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do it, and you guys can do it as well. So let's talk about personality and tolerance first. The way I do it on HOD, I'm going to show you guys everything behind the scenes. So you guys I'm lifting the veil here. What I do on behalf of our Deen is I give people 36 words. And among these 36 words, I ask them to prioritize which one is the most like them. So they'll take these 36 words and they will choose 9 words of their personality. Based on the 9 words they choose, I can tell you what type of personality you are. And there's 4 major colors. I'm going to simplify this. There's 16, but I'll simplify it to 4 major colors. And just from a raise of hands, we'll figure out who is who in this room. The teal personalities are mostly the people in this group here. And I'm going to read them. It may be far away from you guys, so I'll just read these words for you guys. These are people who are forgiving, fun, spontaneous, charming, outgoing, happy. They tend to be very playful. They're lighthearted. They're witty. And they're usually very entertaining. This personality oftentimes likes to be around people and feed off the energy of people. If they're by themselves for too long, they get bored very easily and they get distracted very easily. So if you're a teal, this is you. This group here is what we call the coral personalities. The coral personalities are natural leaders. They're ambitious. They're self-motivated. They get things done. They like to be organized. They're oftentimes very dependable. They're determined. They try to do things that make sense. They're very goal-orientated. They like setting goals and accomplishing those things. The next one here is the magenta. The magenta personalities are very tolerant. They are the kindest of all the personalities. They're the ones who bring everyone together. They oftentimes avoid conflict so much that they'll keep their opinions to themselves. They want to say something, but they don't. They're very good listeners. They're very helpful, very, very helpful. They're diplomatic, they're patient, they're caring, they're considerate. And last but not least is our indigo personalities. This is the one to the far right. These are the opposites of the teals. They're more introverts. They don't have 100 friends. They have a few friends, but they're very close to those friends. And they're fair, they're loyal, they're respectful, they're practical, they're well-mannered, they're thoughtful, they seek knowledge. They love exploring and trying to understand how things work. They are not people who are, if they're around too many people for too long, they start getting drained. When they're by themselves, they recharge. They like the structure. They like routine. They like their system. They don't get bored easily. The teal personalities get bored easily. Just from a raise of hands, based on the colors I just gave you, how many people here are teal personalities? Extroverts, outgoing, social? None? Okay, 1%, okay. Okay, how many people here would consider themselves coral personalities? These are the natural leaders. They're self-motivated. They're organized. They'll be good managers. Okay, few. Okay. Okay, then how many people would be this magenta? They're very supportive. They're very kind. They're good listeners. Okay. And how many people are the more introvert personalities? They're more fair. They're more respectful, more practical, thoughtful, seek knowledge. Okay, and how many people are confused by this whole thing because most of you guys are not raising your hands? Okay.
What about the mean and angry and...
Oh, we're going to get to that in a second. We will get to that because this is all the great stuff about you, by the way. All the bad stuff is down here.
I'm going to fit into some of those.
Yeah, so all of us who can be teals, by the way, I'm half teal and half coral here. One of my daughters is right here, and one of my daughters is right here, and my wife is definitely right here. So whatever you are here, this is the good side of you. This is possibly the bad side of you. And the difference between these two is one thing, and that's your Deen. Islam is what makes the best of character or the worst of character, not your personality. It's what Islam does. So a person who's a coral personality, they are more likely to be the most confident of all personality types, right? But they're also, what is the difference between confidence and arrogance? Islam. If a person has been gifted with money, with beauty, with status, a person who can be confident is know that Allah gave this to me. It's not from me. The one who is arrogant thinks it's from themselves. And this is without Islam, this is with Islam. And these are these negative things that we are all possibly, if you are in this category here, you are more likely to fall into these type of weaknesses here. So you have to learn and be self-aware of what things that I lack as far as my character that I need to improve on. While somebody else which has a teal personality has to focus on these type of traits and try to improve these things and remove these things from their characteristics. So when you're speaking to someone for marriage, what you want to do is figure out what personality they are. Then what you ask them is, hey, can you tell me which traits you find attractive in the opposite gender? And that will tell you which, they may be a teal, but they may want to marry a magenta, right? And then you have to figure out which one of these four can I tolerate, which we'll talk about next. Which one can I tolerate? So when it comes to tolerance, and I think I'm the only one, to the best of my knowledge, has ever made a tolerance test. So what I did is I created something similar to my personality test. And what it is, I give a lot of negative traits. And I ask people, choose one per row that is the trait that you cannot tolerate in the opposite gender. That if my spouse has this, I will not stay married for one day. I'd rather be single for the rest of my life. So choose one that is the worst of these four. And you'll click and choose and choose and choose and choose. And based on which one you chose, I can tell you which personality you are most likely to be able to tolerate and which one you cannot tolerate. So it doesn't matter what you're attracted to. What you're attracted to is how you get married. What you can tolerate is how you stay married. And many people who end up getting married, they didn't marry someone they weren't attracted to. They were attracted to him, but as soon as the things doesn't work out and they can't tolerate him, suddenly it's the worst and most ugliest person in the world in their eyes. And they don't even understand how anyone else could ever marry this person. Because I saw the worst out of this person. But that person that marries them and lives happily ever after is because they can tolerate the negatives that you can't tolerate. And you can tolerate things that they can't tolerate. Does that make sense? This is why the tolerance thing is so important. It's not just attraction or whatever as part of personality. So now we went over personality and tolerance. As you can see, these are two important things when it comes to choosing someone for marriage. The next thing is priorities. So how do we figure out priorities? How do we prevent people from telling us what we want to hear? Sometimes if someone really, really wants to marry you, they'll tell you what you want to hear. And only after, and talk to many divorcees, they say, if I knew what this person was, I would have never married them in the first place. What happened? Well, they just told me what I want to hear. Well, how can I prevent that, Baba Ali? Today I'm going to talk about that as well. So I'll give you something you guys can do, and you can do this with any list of words that you want. I'll give you guys my demo of what we do on Half Our Deen. This is how we do priorities. I gave 10 words that are gender neutral. And why I chose gender neutral words is because if I ask for stability and security, women are going to rank that high. If I ask for physical attractiveness, men are going to rank that high. I'm not trying to see the differences between men and women. I need words that both men and women care about. So I need 10 words like that. So if you're going to choose words to give to someone you're speaking to for marriage, this is how you would do it. And I'll give you the words I chose. These are 10 things people can choose for marriage. Again, this is what Half Our Deen people do, but I'm just showing you so you guys can do it manually with anyone you're speaking to. Neatness, kindness. Oh, actually, let me tell you what we're doing with this. I give them these 10 words, and I ask them to order them from the most important to the least important. Now, everyone in this room, take a look at this list. I'm going to ask you guys in just a second. How many people chose this as their number one word? Who chooses this as their number one word? Who chooses this as their number one word? And just to see from your, and we're all different. There's no right or wrong here. You can argue any of these things are important. Who doesn't want a spouse who's intelligent? Who doesn't want a spouse who's generous or patient? Someone who wants to have kids. Someone who has similar religious views. Religious views doesn't mean they're necessarily religious, but they have similar understanding of Islam as you do. Because when other websites or even events or anyone ask, are you religious? Someone will say yes. But a Salafi and a Sufi are both, quote unquote, religious, but they think very differently. And they have a very different relationship with Islam. That doesn't mean that those two are going to be compatible when it comes to marriage. This is what this means. Desire for children, obviously, do you want to have children? Some people say, I don't want to have children. Some people do want to have children. Generosity, patience, intelligence, same culture. Same culture, we see that sometimes people say, look, I like my culture. It's not more important than my deen, but I care about someone to be same as me, same culture as me. So, from a list, and these are neatness, kindness, obviously I'm not going to explain what those are, you already know. Just from a raise of hands, who would choose neatness as their number one in this room? Yet the masjid is so clean. Okay. Anyone choose kindness as their number one? Okay, we have a few kindness, okay. Anyone choose good manners as their number one? Okay, we have some of those. Who cares as similar education? The person has a similar education as you. Okay, we have a few. And same culture. I want the person to have the same culture as me. Okay, again, one or two. Intelligence. Nobody? Okay, one person. Patience. Anyone want patience? Okay, we have a few. Okay, let's 6 or 7. Generosity as their number one. Okay. Desire for children. Also 1 and 2. And then similar religious views. Majority. Wow, interesting. And we're in a masjid, so it makes sense. Okay. This is important. Why? Because sometimes you're speaking to somebody that doesn't have the same relationship with Islam with you, but you don't know how to ask them. Like you may ask a question, you think you're asking about how religious they are. So anyone ask, you guys want to check how religious someone is, can anyone just give me a question that you may ask to figure out how religious they are? Nobody? Do you pray 5 times a day? That's a great question. It's actually one of the very common questions I hear. And we're going to talk about that as an example question, which I have in my slide. I asked that question, do you pray 5 times a day? And the person says yes. But the question is, how do I verify that? What if they're just saying yes because they like me? And then later on you find out they don't even pray 5 times a day, let alone twice a day, let alone once a day. They just pray Jummah sometimes. So you're like, So the way Baba Ali asks it is, I ask my questions using psychology, or using a question that they can't tell me what I want to hear. For example, in that question, I would ask, instead of do you pray 5 times a day, I would ask about what time does Fajr come in the area you live in. If Fajr comes in around 5:15, 5:30-ish, right, 5:45-ish, I'm okay. Even if they're off by half an hour, that's still fine, because it keeps changing by the minutes, as you know. But if they say like 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m., they don't pray Fajr regularly. All right. So that's priorities for us. Let's move over. Now we're going to go to some deal breakers. This is important. Each one of you should have deal breaker questions that once you start speaking to someone for marriage, you send them these questions. These are questions that are deal breakers for you. And again, they don't know what's the right answer. Only you do. So I'll give you some examples of deal breaker questions. What's the role of the husband? What's the role of the wife? Right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how religious are you? Let them answer themselves. Do you want to have kids? What's your biggest fear about marriage? And how often do you wake up for Fajr? This is just 4, and by the way, I just grabbed this from someone's profile. This is the actual sister, except for I think this question here, they asked something else, but I just want to make something short and quick. But this actually shows someone's real questions. This is what they care about. It's the sister's profile I grabbed it from. But if you go to different people's profiles, they have different questions. So what it tells me 2 things. One is these are questions important to them. Number 2, it tells me what is also important to them. By default, this is one of the most important things for her. This is why she asked this question. Maybe the question may be like, are you willing to relocate to Southern California? Because if the person you're speaking to says no, then, and this is a deal breaker for you, then why do you care about their personality, their tolerance, their priorities? It doesn't make a difference. Use this to filter people out so you don't become emotionally attached and you don't go through the process of someone breaking your heart and restarting and breaking your heart and restarting. We don't want to do that. We don't do things the right way. Next question, interests. It's interesting. It's not my generation, but for some reason, the next generation, one of the most common things they want is the same interests. Nevertheless, I'm not going to argue it, but so I do on the website, and I'm teaching you guys as well, you can give a person a list of interests, give a whole bunch of words, you can chat GPT it, ask them, give me 100 different interests, send them the interests and say which ones are the ones that you are hobbies or interests that you like. And let them just circle them. I just highlighted it here so you can see it. This is how the profiles look like. They highlight it. The reason why they're highlighted is because that means we both have it in common. But you can manually do it and send it to each person that you're speaking to and say, can you mark the ones that you're interested in? I send about 100 and they just click, 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 the ones they're interested in. All right. Now we've gone interests. Now let's get to a little bit deeper about marriage. Love languages. Does anyone know what love languages are, what the 5 love languages are? Okay. So I will quickly go over them. 5 love languages are the way that people show love. All right? Generally, it's these 5. Words of affirmation. This is where you express love through spoken or written words like a text message. Assalamu alaikum, honey, I love you. This is how they show love. They appreciate love this way. Acts of service. This is my wife's love language. This is doing helpful things for your partner to show care. That's the way she understands love. And by the way, a lot of this has to deal with your childhood as well. It could be things that your parents showed you love this way, or you lacked it, so this is the way you crave it. Number 3 is receiving gifts. It doesn't mean that, okay, you're materialistic. Sometimes it could be giving gifts to somebody or receiving gifts. This is the way you show love. So there are people who give quite often, and it brings them closer. And there's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that talks about the people that if you give gift to someone, it brings the relationship closer. Quality time. This is giving your undivided attention, not on your phone and scrolling when you're talking to them, but giving your undivided attention and spending meaningful time together. Last but not least, physical touch. This is not talking about intimacy. This is talking about people who like to hold hands, people who like to kiss, people who like to sit very close to each other when we're watching something together. They like physical touch. So of these 5 languages, sometimes, some places, some websites may ask you, give me what your love language is. Or you're talking to a friend or you do some type of survey and you find out what your love language is. And someone finds out what their love language is. And you're like, okay, that's great. How does this help me get married? Or does it give me information about marriage? Well, this is how it helps you. What I do on the website is, and this is what you guys can do as well. Now that you know the 5 love languages, even if you forgot this, you can Google it or you can just chat GPT it. Say, give me the 5 love languages. And you ask the person you're speaking to for marriage, can you order them? Don't give me your top love language. Just order them from the most important to you to the least important to you. Because this order will tell you a lot about them and what marriage life is going to be like with them. So if I said, for example, quality time is number 5, what happens? Does anyone know a perk about marrying someone who has quality time number 5? Freedom. You actually have more time to do things and they don't need consistent togetherness. If quality time is number 1 for them, they need consistent togetherness. We need to do everything together or a lot of things together. But if it's number 5, it's like, okay, you know what? You have your hobbies, I have my hobbies. My wife's quality time is number 5 for her. Acts of service is number 1 for her. This is why I'm here tonight and it doesn't affect my marriage. So that's why I also travel so much. Last week I was at the NBA Hall of Fame doing guest commentating over there. This week I'm here, and 2 weeks I'm running a singles event. And it's very good with my wife. Doesn't cause conflict. Now, if I'm married to a different sister, it may cause problems. So I have to know who I'm married to, so what works and what doesn't work. This is very important. These are not just questions you're asking to get married, but more important to stay married, which is something we need to focus on more. Anyways, I'm not going to go through it all because it's going to take time, but the same way I just did love languages, you should do friendship qualities. Friendship qualities, again, look, notice all the words are positive words. They're not like right answers or wrong answers. When you choose your friends, which is the most important to you? Loyal, reliable, sincere, understanding, optimistic. And order it from the most important to least important. So based on their order, you'll learn a lot about them. Next, shopping priorities. One of the major things that people argue about in marriage is money. People have different ways they view money. Some people view money as financial stability or security. Some people look at it as financial freedom. Financial freedom means I like to spend more. Financial security means I want to save more. But people are not going to say I'm a spender versus saver. You have to ask in creative ways. So this is a creative way to understand how they view money. So what is the most important thing for you? Convenience, quality, style, price, or quantity. If number one thing for you is price, and this person you're speaking to is number 5, you're going to start arguing about money. Because they're like, I don't care how much it costs, I'm buying it. And you're like, no, we have to look at the budget. So this is where the arguments happen. So look, on HOD, this actually I took a screenshot from HOD because I didn't want to type it up. When you do have something in common, it has a green check mark. So for me, my test account and the person I'm looking at, we convenience and style, we both chose 1 and 3. But neither of us chose quality as number 2, or one of us did and one of us didn't. It wasn't a match here. So every time you see a green check mark, it means there's a match in that area. Okay, as we're moving on. Now we hit shopping priorities, friendship qualities, love languages. Next is commonalities. This is what most people do anyways. You try to ask, well, how old are you? Where are you from? What's your ethnicity? What's your background? Blah, 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 blah. These are general commonalities. What language you speak, culture-wise. You're trying to figure out all these things that what we have in common. That's also important, but I don't think it's number 1, and that's why I didn't put it as number 1. Last but not least is our Q&A. Not quality assurance. Which is almost like quality assurance you're doing anyways, but Q&A is basically asking all the questions you do once you get to start talking for marriage. You go back and forth asking questions. And one time I asked people, I said, what kind of questions do you ask? And they said, oh, are you a good Muslim? Do you eat halal? Are you good? I was like, what if they just say yes to everything? I said, I don't know. It's like, oh, so it's like the honor system. I'm like, that doesn't work. It's like when I go to the airport, like, did you pack your bags? I'm like, yes. Okay, you're safe. Go ahead. I'm like, that's not safe. You just ask everyone they're on the honor system. We can't assume that, I hope they're all speaking the truth, but the reality is we live in a world that some people may not be upfront about the truth. So you have to be smart on the way you ask questions so you can find out who you're really talking to. So now I'm going to show you how to craft some creative ways of asking questions. All right. What you want to do is make the questions meaningful. You want to encourage thoughtful responses, and you want to allow diverse perspectives. You don't want to make a right and wrong answer. So don't have a clear right or wrong. Don't say, are you a liar? Yes or no? And they say no. Okay, great. That doesn't work. Don't ask yes or no questions because they have a 50% chance of getting it right. They're like, yeah, no, yes. Okay, that doesn't work either. And don't make it too vague or too broad because they'll just run circles around you. The way I'll give you guys an example, as we just did, do you pray 5 times a day? I would change that to about what time does Fajr come in? Are you religious? No. What role does faith or what role does Islam play in your daily life? That's a better way of asking it. So instead of asking, do you want a joint or separate bank accounts, you just ask, how was money handled when you were growing up? Because how it was handled may give them a perspective. Oh, my dad and mom did this. Okay, did you like it or dislike it? I think it worked really great. If it worked really great, they're more likely want to have that type of, follow that same thing that's been working for their parents. If it says it worked terribly, then probably expect something very different than what their parents were growing up as. All right, so then we continue. So how do we do these questions? So I personally think you have to develop psychology questions that tells you a way for them to start talking and allow you to learn about what the way they think. I trained a GPT. I can maybe put something on the screen to show you guys how to download. It's actually, you can look it up. If you go to ChatGPT store, it's free. Just type in the word Baba Ali and about 2 GPTs will come up. One GPT will say, tell me what you want to know about somebody, And using Baba Ali's method, we will design a question under the banner of Islam, under the umbrella of Islam that doesn't have a right or wrong answer with psychology backing it. That's how my thing has been trained. And the second GPT that I have is if you have a profile anywhere on any website, copy and paste that profile onto the thing. People really like this one. And what it does is it translates your profile into the language of the opposite gender. And they suddenly like, wow, this looks so much better. Here's the funny thing that no one tells you before we get into this. The language the brothers use here is very different than the language the sisters use here. Sisters will use a word in a language, they're both speaking English, but they have opposite meanings from each other. A sister will say, I'm strong and independent. What a man hears is, I don't need you. That's what men hear, because they take words literally. So when he says independent, to him he's like, wait a second, nothing is independent, only Allah is independent, we're all dependent. And the girl's like, that's not what I mean. I mean, I can take care of myself, I'm resilient, I'm not gonna be dependable, like dependent on you, like I'm not gonna pull you down, I'm here to work together, push you up. That's not what he hears. So I tell sisters, use the word resilience. That makes you far more attractive. Because if he sees, oh, she's independent, she's taken care of, she's good, Assalamu alaikum, you're good. So he's like, what happened to him? What's wrong? Because you're speaking different language. Men, by the way, same thing. They say certain things, and woman says, how could he say that? It's because his language is different than your language. But that's a whole different conversation from a different workshop. Let's get to some of these sample questions that I give people. Tell me something you're passionate about. I use this as one of the first questions. Why? Because people tend to talk when they're passionate about things they're passionate about. It doesn't matter what they're passionate about. Use this usually as your first icebreaker, and it'll get them to start talking. It doesn't matter if they're into race cars or if they're into this or into fashion. And once they start talking, it makes it a little bit easier to make them break the ice. Now you get a little bit deeper. And I brought this example before, but I'll do it here really quick. Do you think the world needs more justice or more mercy? Now, when I ask this question, again, I have psychology behind my questions. And just from a raise of hands, how many people think with all the stuff that's happening in the world today, we need more justice? Can I get a raise of hands? And how many people think we need more mercy? Can I get a raise of hands? Okay. So the people who choose more justice are more fair. The people who chose more mercy, they're more forgiving. Of the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one is the most just and one is the most forgiving. There's no right or wrong answer here. They can't tell you what you want to hear. But with that said, how many people here from raise of hands prefer a spouse that is more forgiving? Can I get a raise of hands? And how many prefer a spouse that is more just, more fair? Can you raise your hands? As you can see, almost 50-50 here. So that tells you there's no right or wrong answer. Nobody knows what your preference is. And even the person you're sitting next to just raised their hand on a question that you didn't raise your hand to. So that tells you that even two people that may be close may think differently on these things. All right, let's go to some quick questions real quick. All right. How do you deal with someone that thinks differently than you? This is a common issue with Muslims and people at work or people, your relatives that you just don't get along with. We all have to deal with somebody that we have to deal with them, but how do you deal with them? This will give you a perspective of how they know how to deal with someone that thinks very differently than them. Which responsibilities did you have growing up? This will also tell you how much of an adult they're more likely to be at this point without asking, are you an adult? All right, what's something that should never be joked about? We'll continue. And I'm not going to go through each detail here, but I'm just going to run through them real quick just to get an idea of the type of questions you guys can ask. Which life lesson did you learn the hard way? Which lie do you most often tell yourself? If you wrong someone, how do you apologize? Which unpopular opinion do you follow that some Muslims find problematic? I'll tell you some key words I use here and you guys catch them here. Which unpopular opinion, I didn't say fact, opinion, do you carry that some, not all Muslims, find problematic? I didn't say haram, I said problematic. I made a lot of flexible words here on purpose just to make them feel comfortable so they can open up. Otherwise, they're going to tell me what I want to hear. All right, when you get mad, how do you communicate? If there's anything good that comes from going through hard times, is there anything good that comes from going through hard times? And this tells you a little bit of like a person that has critical thinking and be able to self-reflect. Next question, when you are at your worst, what does your worst look like? If your spouse is going through your emails, is that an invasion of privacy? Just from a raise of hands, how many people think that if your future spouse is going through your emails, that is an invasion of privacy? Can you raise your hands? How many people think it's not an invasion of privacy? Can you raise your hands? Again, 50-50. That's how you know it's a good question. So if your question has everybody raise their hands and nobody raising their hands for option B, then that's not a good question. That means there's a clear right answer. All right. So Baba Ali, how are you making these questions? These are good questions. Fantastic, you asked. All right, so the next part is here. I broke it down one of the example questions, the power of flexible language. Which unpopular opinion do you follow that some Muslims find problematic? And as you can see, as I'm clicking here, it highlighted all those key words that makes the thing very, very flexible. All right, now let's get to a little bit deeper. We talked about personality. Let's dive a little bit deeper so you guys can benefit from this, inshallah. All right. The teal personalities, you're outgoing, you're friendly, you're talkative, like me. You prefer to be the center of attention, you're generous, you're a loyal friend and great companion. Every free moment you have is with a busy social life. That's their teal personalities, okay? Now, you say, Baba Ali, that's a little bit like me, but not 100%. I have a little bit of that. Fantastic. We'll get to that in a moment. Coral personalities. I'm looking for which one you dominate. All of us are a little bit of each, but one of us, we have more of the other colors. Coral personalities. You're ambitious and natural leader. Your serious, no-nonsense approach to life inspires confidence and trust from the people around you. You organize projects and people to get things done. You're outgoing and friendly, but you're highly competitive. Those are your corals. Magentas. You're compassionate and loyal to your friends and family. You are sensitive and kind. You're a very private person and like to have your own space. You dislike disagreements and conflict so much that you're extremely tolerant of people's beliefs and opinions. And last but not least, indigos, you thrive on exploring and understanding and explaining how the world works. You are intensely logical and analytical. You're independent, skeptical, and innately self-confident. You focus so much on complicated ideas. And by the way, the indigo personalities, they may not have 100 friends, but the few friends they have, they're friends for life. They don't like surface level conversation, they like deep conversations. All right, so when I go to like, all the stuff I'm telling you guys, is I'm telling you guys just to do it. It's the same thing I implemented on Half Ardeen for the people who are looking for the other half. This is an example profile. All the priorities, this is their order. Their personality, what we just talked about right here. And this is the part where you break down. You break down how much teal they have, how much, this has almost no coral in their personality. They have a little bit magenta and more indigo. This is their personality. These are the words they chose, helped us determine this. This is what they're attracted to though. Notice they're caring, compassionate, forgiving. That's how they describe themselves. But they're attracted to ambitious, dependable, determined. They didn't use these words over here. And this is what they're compatible with. So even though you're attracted to this, it doesn't matter. That's not going to keep you married. That's maybe what you find attractive to decide to who you want to marry. But if you want to stay married, this is the most important thing to choose. Who am I most compatible with? And ironically, this person, which has no coral whatsoever in their personality, is the most likely to be successful in a marriage with a coral personality, 90%. As we move on, this is what they're not attracted to, and all this stuff determines this stuff here. Okay, that's that topic. So, if you guys marry a teal, Baba Ali, what is marriage life going to be like? Let me explain. Key traits: outgoing and fun, spontaneous and adventurous, forgiving and lighthearted, optimistic and a risk taker. Here's the challenges you're going to have with a teal personality. They can be easily distracted. They may struggle with long-term focus. They have a tendency of being unreliable. Still, I made it to tonight. And they half teal. That's why I made it. Okay, and might lack depth in relationships. Islamic perspectives embodies the Prophet ﷺ's teachings on forgiveness and spreading joy. However, should be mindful of balancing fun with religious duties. Life can't just be fun. It can't just be jokes. You have to be able to balance. Now, what does that mean for marriage? It can bring joy and spontaneity to a relationship. Partners should be prepared for active social life and may need help for consistency and responsibility. So if you marry someone, that's what you guys should expect. Now you know the goods, they're bad. So like, I like teals, okay. So now you're focusing on, can I deal with the teal for marriage? Now this sister here is a very magenta personality. So those are magentas in the room, there's quite a number in this room. And this person is 100% likely to work for another magenta, which usually happens, by the way. Magentas like magentas for some reason, it works out. Okay, so let's talk about magentas. This is coral personality. Coral personalities. Natural leaders, self-motivated, ambitious, determined, organized, efficient, confident, decisive. Potential challenges. They could be self-centered. They may struggle with expressing feelings. They have a tendency of being judgmental. My corals here. and might lack sensitivity in communication. Sometimes one of the challenges for the magentas are the corals, by the way. They can come across as bossy. Even though they're not trying to be bossy, they appear that way to some magentas. Now, the Islamic perspective embodies leadership qualities valued in Islam. Should focus on balancing assertiveness with humility and compassion as taught by the Prophet ﷺ. And the implications of marriage, you can provide stability and direction in a relationship. This is if you marry a coral personality. The partner should be prepared for a goal-oriented lifestyle and may need to encourage emotional expression and sensitivity. So that's what you have to deal with if you guys decide to proceed with a coral personality. Let's go to magentas. These are the ones who are kind and considerate, excellent listeners, they're peacemakers and diplomats, they're patient and compassionate. Challenges, they may avoid expressing their true feelings. They can be very indecisive. They might prioritize kindness over fairness. I've seen this a lot. Tendency to avoid conflict. So they stay quiet. Sometimes they need to speak up, but they don't. Islamic perspective. Islamic virtues of kindness and empathy should strive to be balanced to encourage to stand up for truth and justice as taught in Islam. So alhamdulillah, these are all things that if you notice, the Prophet ﷺ had the best of character because he took the best of every color. All that white brightness top, that was the Prophet ﷺ. That's what we should be leaning towards. When we say be the best of character, it's not just talking about praying and fasting. It's what the praying and fasting does to us and how it changes our actions and makes us better, inshallah. Anyways, implications for marriage can create a harmonious and supportive home environment. Partners should encourage open communication and may need to take the lead in decision making at times. Magentas do not like making decisions, so the partner, whoever's married to them, has to encourage them to be like more expressive. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. Just I need to know, be open, inshallah. All right, last but not least are indigos. They're loyal and fair, they're detail-oriented and thoughtful, they value knowledge and tradition, and highly ethical and principled. Their potential challenges, they can be overly serious. They may struggle with forgiveness. By the way, of all the personality colors that forgive, hardest for them to forgive happens to be the indigos. But they're very, very fair, and they're very, very just. They have a tendency to be skeptical of new ideas. Even all the stuff I'm talking about right now, my indigos are like, I'm not even sure about this guy. All right, the next one is they might procrastinate due to perfectionists. So they procrastinate. That's one of the challenges indigos have. They want to do something, but they keep thinking about things. But why? It's not because they're lazy. They don't like making mistakes. So they take their time. They don't risk everything. They take their time. But sometimes that can lead to procrastination, so they have to be aware of that. Islamic perspective aligns with Islamic emphasis on knowledge, ethics, and loyalty. Should strive to balance adherence to principles with forgiveness and openness as taught in Islam. And implications for marriage can provide stability and depth to a relationship. Partners should be prepared for deep, meaningful conversations and may need to encourage lightheartedness and spontaneity at times. So I'm married, by the way, to an indigo, so I try to make things different and fun. So we have our challenges because we're opposite personalities, but because I understand who I'm married to, I can understand these things. I can look at all the positives, don't look at just the negatives. And if the other person's aware of their negatives, some people are not aware, they can work on it. But if you're not aware of these things, and hopefully tonight, if anything you're benefiting from, you're like, wow, I never saw things in this perspective. This is giving me some insight to learn, make myself better, inshallah. Okay. So these are things that you need to tolerate if you guys want to marry a teal personality. Inconsistency and difficulty of long-term planning, tendency of prioritizing fun over responsibilities. This is the teals. Potential lack of follow-through on commitments, difficulty focusing on serious matters. So we've already talked about some of these already, so I'm going to skip through this because I want to make sure we get to any questions you guys may have. I quickly mentioned to Aftab when you were sitting down, I'm just taking my time real quick, that when you see someone's love languages, and I asked you guys, take the 5 love languages, send it to the person you're speaking to for marriage, and ask them to rank it. Now that they rank it, you're like, okay, now what do I do with this information? Baba Ali, what does it mean if they choose this? What if it means they choose this? So I put this little slide together for you guys. If they choose words of affirmation as their number 1, the benefit of marrying this person is they're regularly going to uplift and encourage you. They'll always know where you stand emotionally because they naturally express love, pride, and appreciation through words. It's like having a personal cheerleader in your corner. What if they choose acts of service? This is my wife. You'll have a partner who shows love through action.
They'll go out of their way to make your life easier, handling tasks, helping without being asked, and consistently looking for ways to support you. What if it's receiving gifts? Is their number one. They'll put genuine thought into surprising you. Every gift will be meaningful, not just material. They're observant, detail-oriented, and will go the extra mile to make you feel seen and remembered. Quality time. You'll have someone deeply invested in bonding and shared experiences. You won't be physically present. They won't just be physically present, they'll be mentally and emotionally engaged. It builds a strong emotional intimacy and deep connection. And physical touch. You'll receive consistent physical affection, hugs, cuddles, kisses, that builds trust and emotional security. If you're someone who values closeness, you'll never starve for it. Those are all the perks of having these things as their number one. Now you're probably wondering, Baba Ali, what about number 5? What if this is number 5 for them? What if marriage life going to be like for that? Is this all bad? No. Look at the bright side of all of these. If any of these love languages is their number 5, this is the perk of being married to them. If words of affirmation is their number 5, you'll never be expected to be a smooth talker. You don't have to be verbally expressive. It won't damage the relationship. You can focus more on action than saying perfect words. Acts of service is their number 5. You're not under the pressure of constantly doing things to prove your love. The relationship isn't based on how much you cook, clean, or run errands. It gives you space to show love in other ways. Receiving gifts is their number 5. Low maintenance when it comes to material expectations. You won't be judged on how expensive or frequent your gifts are. The relationship isn't driven by money or possessions. Quality time is their number 5. You'll have more personal freedom, as our brother Aftab mentioned, and independence. They don't need constant togetherness to feel love, which makes them feel a great match for someone who has a busy schedule or an introverted nature. And last but not least, physical touch. There's no demand for constant physical closeness. If you're someone who isn't overly touchy or needs personal space, they'll respect that and they don't take that as a rejection. Now, I speak 100 miles an hour because I want to make sure I stay within my time while trying to give as much information as I can to you. And I want to take a quick break as far as questions so I can be able to answer questions while it's on top of your head. Is there any questions anyone has? You're still absorbing everything. The first question is the hardest question to ask. Yes?
Basically, love languages do not need to align necessarily because someone might like to receive and give in different ways, right?
Exactly. So you don't have to have the same love language, and that's one of the things that these websites ask to say, or a survey may ask you, what is your love language? So now you're wondering, okay, I need to go find someone that has the same love language as me. No. What if you're not looking for someone that, okay, you may be loving to give gifts, that's how you express love, but receiving gifts is not necessarily, that's the most important thing to me. Maybe some other way that's important to you. So don't find that as an alignment as important. I just want you to see both sides of it. There's a perk about that being their number 1, and there's a perk about being number 5. It's the way you look at the glass of water. It could be half full or half empty. Yes?
How long do you think it takes for someone to show their true colors?
About 3 months. Most of the time, if you want to see someone's true colors in, let's say, 3 months, it depends on how much you're interacting. Again, everything I'm saying, I'm assuming everyone understands that we're doing everything through the halal path, right? We're doing everything with the boundaries of Islam. When you are interacting with somebody, you want to see how they behave when you disagree, not when everything's going good. Watch how people behave when they're arguing, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them, when they're going through a trial in their life. That shows you who they are. There was a very interesting video I saw a long time ago. Someone, I think it was Mufti Mink that mentioned it. He said, if you really want to see someone's character, watch how they treat the most insignificant person in their life. The person who's cleaning the floor over here, there's no benefit for you whatsoever. How does that person treat that person? Sometimes the person, the way they treat a waiter, or the person that has no benefit to them. It's easy to show someone that you actually can benefit from. You need to show them respect. But someone that does insignificant in your life, watch how that person treats them. It shows a lot about that person's character. Any other questions? Yes?
How do you view yourself already for marriage?
That's an excellent question. So,
Can you repeat?
so the question is that how do you know if you yourself are ready for marriage? This is the thing that's interesting for us. In our minds, we don't know anytime 100%. In our minds, it depends also which personality type we are. So if we're an indigo personality, we're always skeptical, we're always self-doubting ourselves, we're always wondering, am I not? Allah knows best. So one of the things I try to do is, oh Allah, if this is khair for me, make it easy. If it's not khair for me, make it difficult. And that's like true istikhara you're praying. It's not like, okay, some lightning bolt's gonna hit or something's gonna, no. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever is khair and good for you, make it easier, and whatever is not good for you to make it difficult. And this is meant for when you're looking for a job, when you're looking for marriage, whatever process you're going through. But you have to put in the effort, and no one's ever like, okay, now I've done everything, now I'm ready. No, we're always, as soon as you get married, you're still learning. You're constantly learning. I've done this, I don't know how many workshops so far. I've been doing the half-hour thing for 16 years, I'm still learning. It never ends. It's not like, okay, now I know everything. As soon as you think you know everything, that means you know nothing. The person who has true knowledge is realize they don't know anything. The more you learn, the more you realize how much little you actually know. So what I've been doing through the years is I made workshop after workshop after workshop of all these different things I've been learning throughout the years, and I'm just trying to share with different communities so everyone can get married. As I said earlier, every single one of my friends is now married, and I tried to help as many as I could. Now I'm going beyond the single brothers I hang out with and try to help everybody else find out a half, inshallah. Any other questions? Yes.
Where are some places you suggest meeting for the first time, and do you recommend escape room?
An escape room. As you're talking about, just make sure we're talking about the same thing. So,
Yeah, escape room, like as an activity for a first time.
okay, so sister's asking, where's a good place to meet? Is an escape room a good place to meet for the first time? The escape room, the challenge is that you're just alone in a room. It's just you, him, or you, her, whatever situation, and shaitan. There's only 3 of you in the escape room, and if you escape. But I understand where you're getting to with that. Because you're doing an activity where you're not just asking questions, you're trying to see what they will act in a stressful situation when they have to solve something, how they work, how they communicate, and that type of thing. I try to do the same thing when I try to design my activities. I can't have them alone. I wanted them to be in a situation where, okay, so I'll give you guys a little bit of insight of how I do my events. And so when I do a singles event, what happens is I put out a flyer and I say, hey, there's an event coming. I'll give you an example. October 11th is an event here in Burbank. And I say, everyone who wants to apply, I don't say you get in, apply for the event. All you have to do is go to my name, babaali.com, and the event will be there. You click on it. And all of these people apply. And they've applied from out of state. I did an event in Virginia. I think 36 out of the 75 people were from out of state, about half. So they fly in from different areas. And the reason why they fly in, even though they have single events in their communities, is because of what you're talking about. Put me in a situation where I can see who this person really is. Don't put me in a Q&A, so I'm like, oh, how are you doing, musical chairs type of thing. That doesn't work. Put me in a real situation where I can see who they really are and who I am. And the reason why the sisters mentioned the escape room is because that, for those who are not familiar with the escape room, we should maybe explain that earlier on, is it's a room they put you in, and there's like a puzzle or a set of puzzles that you have to solve to get to the next step. Sometimes multiple steps to escape out of the room. So they have these, they were quite popular a few years ago, but they require you to work together, and they're often difficult, challenging puzzles. And they take about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how difficult the puzzle is. So what I did with this is, when I do my events, I first filter out people that I don't think are going to be likely to be compatible. So I'll give you an example of how I filter out. Ask all the sisters, what's the oldest age of a brother you'll consider? Some sister will say 31, some says 35, some says 27. Whatever the maximum age is in that city, let's say 39 is the maximum age. Every brother who's above 39 who applies doesn't get in. Not because I don't want them to get in, it's because none of the sisters are open to it. Similarly, I ask the brothers, if this is a younger group or an older group, they say their maximum age, and I look through the sisters and we cross that out. This is generally an idea of how to filter them out. Other ways could be filtering on conservative versus liberal ideas. That usually is a deal breaker for a lot of people, so I use that possibly as a way to separate people. Nevertheless, 250 people can, after all the filtering, come down to like 50 people. Like, where's everybody? We filtered the people who are most likely to match. Now that you have everyone in the room, now what do we do? Well, I don't want to sit there sound like, where are you from? What do you do? That's a waste of time, because as soon as you do that, you rotate. So I'm like, where are you from? What do you do? And you just keep doing this, and it's like a broken record. And by the time you get to the 25th person, so I'm like, oh, shoot me. Okay, so basically I said, look, in order to remove all this, we just give them have everyone just give them a free profile on HOD, have everyone fill out the profile once, and if anyone wants to look at anything, just go to the website and it just shows you everything about them. And it actually looks at all your answers and their answers and shows you all this details about that stuff. Okay. So now we remove that, now we can do activities. So I'll give you an activity that we do. I have one that the latest one I did, the recent activity called Spark Sessions. This is the only activity I do most of my activities are tables. You sit at tables and you interact with a table of people. But this one is the only activity that I do as one-on-one. I have a brother sit here, a sister sit here, they're sitting away from each other, and there's the next group. It looks like speed dating, but it's not. And instead of asking someone like, where are you from, what do you do? I give them a real life marriage argument. And for 5 minutes, they can pretend they're husband and wife. And they have to argue like husband and wife. And I'll give you guys an example. I wasn't doing this here. I think I have it here. Here. Here's one of the examples. Your in-laws have strong opinions about how you should raise your children and have been increasingly vocal about it. Your spouse seems hesitant to address the issue directly. One of you is one of these other. You have 5 minutes. Resolve this issue. How you argue with this person will show you a lot about how this person interacts with you. Because how do you simulate arguments? You can't. Everyone's like, how are you from, where are you from? That doesn't work. This is real life. This is like a situation. You notice that you and your spouse have different levels of enthusiasm for certain religious practices. For example, one of you is eager to attend every community event at the masjid, while the other prefers to focus more on personal worship at home. This could be a deal breaker for some people. Like, you never come to any of the events, you never come to, we have this thing at the masjid on Thursday. I say you should come. It's at least this can be fun. I don't want to go. I stay at home. I'm watching the football game tonight. So some people are different. And then the husband and wife consistently like this, it makes them feel like they're drifting apart. So pretend you guys are husband and wife for 5 minutes and argue about this. How you argue, if it doesn't work out, you're only married 5 minutes, you're okay. And if it does work out, you're okay, mashallah, this person, I think I can resolve conflict with this person. So that's one of the examples. Another example I do is something called the Great Compromise. I give people 60 negative words and say, which one are you willing to compromise? Which one are you willing to deal with? And people are like, okay, I don't want any of these things. I said, okay, we'll pick the negatives that you'll deal with. Okay, fine. If I had to, I don't care if she's always late or she's insecure about herself. Fine. And the brothers would choose and sisters would choose. And you can see every single person in the room what they will compromise. Oh, I didn't mention that. If you do an activity with the person at a table, after you're done, it actually ranks every single person in the entire room in order on who's most like you and who's least like you in most activities. So I believe, similar to what you're saying, is you have to do something with somebody to learn about them, not just Q&A. For brothers who play sports, you know it's very, very different, brother, when you pray Maghrib with them about an hour ago versus when you go on the basketball court or you go play football or soccer with somebody. A completely different personality comes out. Completely different. When people are in their competitive mode, it's like a completely different person. That's the real them, not the person you see here. Any other questions? Because we'll be going to Isha soon. Yes?
So as far as I heard, dating is considered haram. So
I'm not a sheikh, but I don't promote dating whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think everything should be done through Islamic way, and this is one thing I recommend to everyone to reflect about. If you keep trying something over and over and over again, and it's not working, you're swiping, it's not working, you're doing this, it's not going up, we're going up, and just being alone together is not working. When there's no barakah in the process, there's no success in the process. If you really believe the rizq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that success is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He doesn't grant success, I don't care how many things you try, I don't care how many websites you try, I don't care if you go on HOD, you go to events, nothing's gonna work. Half of it, by the way, is the structure of the event and structure of that and all the stuff I'm talking about. And half of it is you. Sometimes people say, which website works? That's like asking me which gym works here. LA Fitness or 24 Minutes. It doesn't matter if you're gonna go there and just do this. Nothing's gonna happen. You're never gonna work out. Like, you're just doing this type of weird stuff there. No matter how much you do, it doesn't matter what your LA Fitness is garbage. It doesn't work. What are you doing? I'm doing this. And whatever I'm doing, I'm not losing weight. What? It doesn't work. So 50% is you and how you do it, and 50% is actually like if the gym is good. Do they have good machines? Do they have weights? Do they have fitness? Do they have cardio stuff? If they don't have any of those things, it's not gonna help you get to your goal. So my job is to build something events and site that has that structure, trying to do things Islamically, and the other half is you. Your mindset, how you carry yourself, and that's why I'm here, not to sell a website to tell you guys to sign up. It's more to say, hey, no matter how you find your other half, learn all these things. Learn about their personality, learn about their priorities, learn about their tolerance, learn all these things, not just sound like, what do you like on Netflix? I mean, that's not going to work. And a lot of people right now, they don't know what to ask. We don't hear too many khutbahs about like, what questions should I be asking for marriage and how to deal with this type of things.
But just, sister, what was when you said dating is haram, right? Was there like something, I feel like there's something more that you have a question about. Or were you just dating someone?
No, I've heard from different speakers, and even though they give presented hadith, that there must not be a connection between an opposite gender, like male and woman. This is considered haram.
When you say connection, what do you mean by that?
Like
I'm asking for elaboration because there's a lot of questions like that I've heard. And
Yeah.
I've heard, like you said, even Shakespeare's answers that vary in a spectrum, right? So just if you can elaborate. So when you say connection, what do you mean by that?
like texting messages
Uh-huh.
and in person maybe
So-
meeting each other in person.
So again, the connection part, that depends on what is meant by connection, right?
Yeah.
So now, is it haram to have a potential male and female who are having a conversation about marriage? Is it haram for them to have text messages, right? I know a lot of imams and scholars who will say no to that, right? Now, what's the issue is being alone in an environment, in a secluded place, right? So in a public setting, right? Or as Ali's saying, even in the gatherings, they make sure that the environment is appropriate from a religious angle. So dating, like should you go out on dates and do all of those things, or go to movies and dinners and, no, it has to be in a controlled setting for the right reason within the right environment, right? For example, going to movies is not gonna help you get to know the person. But sitting at a table, maybe having dinner with maybe a third person present or a third family member close by within range, that would be more
This
practical.
is considered haram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, right? But yeah, just hanging out, to say we'll get to know each other over 3 months, we'll go to movies, we'll go to walks in the park, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's something different. But as long as you're not spending time alone and in isolation, even text messaging, right? And let's say it's getting carried away, text messages are getting personal at the wrong times. Of course, with text messaging done with the right intention, within the right context, but then a person could be their own judge and say, hey, now we're getting a bit personal here. Or you find that late at night you guys are communicating and it's getting, again, to crossing the line. I think most of the times we have a sense of that this is not. But to say text messaging, is it haram? No, absolutely not. Could it become haram? Yes, of course. Right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, the reason I didn't answer your question directly, and I'm not a chef, but is that dating depends on what you're referring to. Some people referring to we're just alone. Sometimes, hey, we are in a public setting and there's other people here. We're going with the chaperone. It could be multiple things. People refer in the UK. They use that term completely differently than we use in the US. So I didn't know, as far as context, exactly what you meant as what a date is. Are we alone? Are we not alone? What environment are we in? All this kind of stuff. I just want to show you guys something because this, by the way, this is not real people. These are AI again, because I'm not going to show real people here. But I want to show you something because I've been talking about analysis. I built this recently, and I haven't even announced it yet. But what I want to do is I want to do all the stuff I'm doing and just analyze. This is her personality, this is his personality, and it says because you're both patient, this is what marriage life is going to be like. Because you're both you both find considerate and well-mannered attractive, this is what marriage life is going to be like. And these are all the things you guys dislike, and these are things you guys both have in common. This is your tolerance level. All these different things. So let's take a look at, for example, this is where we think differently. It looks at the question that you guys chose, that you look differently, and what that means. Based on all the differences, it's about 250, I think, data points. It generates questions that you guys should ask each other because it notices differences between you guys. So this is important that you do yourself. If you're not doing it through this website, pay attention to all the places that you're different. Our priorities are different. Okay, I've got to talk about that. He put desire for children is number 10 for him. It's number 3 for me. Just put that. I gotta put that down and ask in a creative way without being offensive. How can I do it? And I use AI to design questions that people would more likely to answer honestly than just say, "Why don't you want to have kids?" type of thing. So that just to give you some insight about that. So maybe I think we're going to be praying Isha soon, but I don't have time to show you guys anything else. I think I can show you something that may be interesting. Most people cannot see. I'll show you what it looks like when these people do go to an event. As I said, the next one is in Burbank on October 11th, which is the day I become 51, by the way. So interesting enough. So on my birthday, I'm hosting a singles event. Ironically, okay. So when someone goes to an event, this is what they see. They're going to log in with their phone. When they log in with their phone, imagine this in a phone view. So imagine it's not going to be like this wide screen. They see everyone the opposite gender of thing, and they'll actually mark the people that they find interesting. When you mark somebody, that person never finds out. If they mark you, you never find out. It's not like social media. There's no way you're liking and stuff like that. What happens is the system checks at midnight, and if both of you happen to like each other, that's when you get an email at midnight. Otherwise, if you like someone in your community that you see regularly, they'll never know unless it's mutual. And it stays between your families, not through admin or anybody else. But let me give you an example of what I was telling you guys earlier. Let's take a look at one of the questions I used called split the seats. This activity is already over. When the activity is over, it'll show you by percentage who is the most matched for me and who is the least. So when I click on someone's answers, these are the questions that I asked at the event. Do you prioritize honesty or kindness in your interactions with others? Now, how many people choose honesty as the way you interact when you prioritize? Okay, we have some, okay, honesty. Who prioritizes kindness when you're speaking to others? Again, 50-50. That's how you know it's good questions, guys. So do you learn more by, I'm not going to do these questions, but I'm just going to give you an idea. Do you, in conflicts, do you prioritize resolving the issue or maintaining harmony? So every question has answers. Now, let's say it gets to a question you care about. Let's say, for example, you're a divorcee. And one of the most important things for you is like, okay, I'm going to this event, or I'm going to meet somebody, and this entire time, if they're not open to speaking to someone who's previously married, it doesn't matter. All the rest of the stuff that Bob Ali's talking about is useless. So how can I filter the entire people at the entire event to just the people who are open to marrying divorcees? Well, one of the questions is, are you open to marrying a divorcee? And when the answer of the question comes up here, and it's somewhere here, but it says yes, and here we go. All I do is click on yes, and it'll filter down to like this 4 people at whatever table or whatever that said yes to the answer. You can filter by people's answers. So any question that you like, you can actually filter. So if I want to see only the honest people, it will show me the people, not honest people, who chose honesty. Who chose honesty, that comes up. But inshallah, if we ever do a workshop in the future, I'll come back and we'll do something where we do more of an active thing, which I didn't have time for today. But I want to actually show you guys like a red flag, green flag thing. And what I mean by that is I want to show you like real people, very similar to real people situations. And I want to ask you, how many people see any red flags in this person? And most of the time I do this, people raise their hand very quickly. Then I ask, okay, what are the green flags? And it was like, quiet. You don't say anything good about this guy who donates 30% of his money? And someone will raise their hand like, okay, fine, he's generous. Okay, what else? Okay, he trusts Allah, otherwise he wouldn't give away that much money. You know, so people see red flags very easily. And when you're speaking to someone from marriage, you see red flags very easily. Sometimes we don't see green flags. Even with you, someone may be speaking to you and they just look at your age, or you look at your ethnicity, or you look at this, or you look at that, and they don't see the good side of you. And that's the problem they have. They miss that. And that's I think there's something missing in our Muslim communities. And that's why I try to incorporate all this stuff in a workshop so I can change the mindset. It's like all these people are going to the gym, but I'm trying to change the way we're working out and actually give you the workout plan so you guys will become successful. Anyways, that's my time. If anyone has any other questions, okay, jazakallah khair for having me, guys.